Hello, I'm Jo, and welcome to the Midlife Entrepreneur Podcast, a new show that's all about building a business in midlife. My guest this week is Florence Brocklesby, lawyer and founder of Bellevue Law, a B Corp certified boutique law firm specialising in workplace law and commercial legal disputes. Built around flexibility and integrity, Bellevue Law was the first UK law firm to be accredited by the Good Business Charter. Florence trained at Freshfields and built an international career in London, Brussels and Hong Kong before taking 5 years out to raise her 3 children. When she couldn't find a firm that fit the life she wanted to return to, she created one herself, launching Bellevue Law from her garden office. What began as a solo venture has grown into a thriving firm with a team of 30, 90% of whom are female, and many of them working parents who value the flexible people-first culture she's built. Florence is ranked as a leading individual in Chambers UK and Legal 500. She's regularly advising entrepreneurs, senior executives, fast-growing businesses and career-critical matters from discrimination cases to shareholder disputes. Her empathetic and calm approach helps her clients move forward with clarity and confidence. Florence, welcome to the Midlife Entrepreneur.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to have you because when we spoke originally on the phone and you told me about your story, it really resonated because I work with a lot of people who go from corporate and are starting something new. So talk me through those moments where you're sitting in your garden office and you are just about to launch a business. How did you approach that?
For me, it didn't come from an inherent dislike of corporate life. I'd enjoyed working in the city for about 8 years before I had my children. But I had 3 children quite close together. At one point, I had 3 children under 4. And being a city lawyer is long hours. And I couldn't really see a way to make that work in a way that I wanted to. I should say I know people who have made it work and more power to them, but it wasn't the life that I wanted for me and it wasn't the life that I wanted for my family. And so when the time came to go back to work, having had a break to be at home while the children were very small, when I looked around, I just simply couldn't see the kind of work that I wanted. At the time, pre-pandemic, I'm talking about 2014, there really wasn't much of an option to be a lawyer who didn't work from an office. 5 days a week, occasionally, if you were very lucky, you might be allowed to work 4 days a week. But you'd probably end up working on the 5th day and not getting paid for it and scrabbling around on the floor doing Lego at the same time that you were trying to send an email. And that was unappealing to me. And so really, rather than being born from a desire to be a sole practitioner or an entrepreneur, it was just born from a desire to work, but work in a way that worked around my family and that gave me the flexibility and autonomy that I wanted. So that was a great vision to have. And the downside, the challenge that I had was that having previously worked in very large law firms and having had 5 years at home with my toddlers, I didn't have any clients whatsoever. And those clients are obviously quite important to building a law firm. Yeah. So when you're sitting in your garden office, I was sitting in my garden office thinking, this has the potential to be extremely embarrassing for me because I'm going to tell everybody that I'm starting a law firm. And everyone will think, oh, that's quite interesting and exciting. Not many people we know have done that. But I will also have to tell them in 6 months or 12 months' time that I'm closing down my law firm if I'm not successful in finding any clients. And so the honest answer is I really didn't know where they were going to come from. But I felt that there ought to be some out there for me and I was going to find out where they were. And interestingly, the first 3 came from the school run.
Wow.
I met them in the playground. I wasn't marketing. I wasn't networking. I wasn't doing BD. I was dropping my 4-year-old daughter at school. And mums would come up to me in the playground and say, I hear you're an employment lawyer. Can you help me? Because, of course, working mothers of small children have an awful lot of employment law issues. And that's how the business started.
Wow, that's so fast. And also, it's so important to know an employment lawyer because even just saying it in a difficult conversation that you have access to one, I think a lot of people don't. And I find that quite fascinating.
I think we're quite like divorce lawyers, actually, that most of my clients, the individual clients, the corporate clients, obviously have an ongoing need for employment law advice. But most of the individual clients, hopefully with the following wind, don't need to come back and use you again. Like divorce lawyers, you don't want to need a divorce lawyer multiple times.
Hopefully not.
But they tell their friends.
Yeah.
And their friends know, oh, you left your job in difficult circumstances a little while ago. Can you recommend somebody? And we have found over the years that the business has grown and built by word of mouth recommendation.
And did you find that the lawyery muscle that you had obviously had worked on so much prior to having kids, was it still there, or did you have to reconnect with that?
Still there. But I think that's a misconception, really, isn't it? That
Actually, I don't know.
Or in any profession, but particularly in law, there's an assumption that if you've had a little bit of time, you won't still be able to do it, but your brains don't come out with a baby. And you do sometimes have to brush up. The law might have moved on over time, and you won't be as up to date, but that's not very difficult. If you've got the skills, the skills will come back. And I often think, actually, people who've had time out come back with a renewed energy, come back with maybe some better soft skills.
Yeah.
My GP said to me, if you can potty train a toddler using Smarties, you'll be able to negotiate with anyone. And it's not something that I've applied directly in my work, but I think there is something in it that anything that you do that is different will develop different parts of your skill set, and you bring that back into your work. It can be very useful and give you a different perspective.
Also, the perspective that you definitely got was the understanding of the challenges of motherhood and working. And until we go through that, I think it's quite hard to understand some of the juggle and some of the challenges. I certainly found, and I don't know whether this is what so many people that you know say or suggest, I found that when I came back to work after maternity leave, first of all, I was so excited to be back in a workplace full of adults. And secondly, I found myself to be incredibly productive.
Yes.
Because I was on a deadline. I had this sort of hard end to the day in a way, most days, in a way that I hadn't had to have before. So in fact, I was able to get more done.
It's something that people commonly say is that working parents become more efficient through necessity.
And as you built the company, how quickly did you start employing other people?
So the business has been open now for 11 years, and I always divide it into two phases, pre-COVID and post-COVID. So the first 5 years were relatively slow, and the second 5 years have been quite a lot faster. I hired the first couple of lawyers who joined me within about a year. So as I began to pick up work, I obviously do it all myself because there was only me. And as it began to get a little bit busier, I realised I might have too much to do myself and that I would need some extra people to help me. That's where I came up with a model that I still have to this day in Bellevue Law, which is that all of the lawyers are very senior and they're all self-employed and they can choose their hours. And I realised in the little bit of southwest London that I live in, that if I was to walk down the street and throw a stone, I would probably hit a female ex-city lawyer who'd had to make that decision between all and nothing and had chosen to walk away from a job that they might really enjoy in lots of ways because they didn't want to do 60, 70, 80 hours a week working in the city. The calibre of lawyers in my local Gales was absolutely extraordinary. And the first two lawyers I hired are still with the firm 10 years after they joined, which I think is testament to the fact that flexibility just really works for people who are trying to combine professional life and working life. Yeah. But it allowed me to hire really excellent lawyers at a time that I was essentially working from a posh shed at the bottom of my garden. And now we've moved on and we're in a much nicer office in the centre of London now. But over time, the calibre of lawyer that I've been able to hire just by simply offering flexibility and offering a lot of autonomy about how they choose to work has been absolutely exceptional. So it's been a winning formula, but I really stumbled upon it through chance rather than through anything strategic.
And I'd imagine that you're now a firm that people seek out for that reason.
I think we have people approach us now who, and that's really gratifying because it shows that we have built something that is attractive in a market where people have a lot of choice. So it's very highly qualified, and there are firms that they can work at where they'll be paid astronomical amounts of money, but that comes at a price in terms of what they have to give in return. And then there are lots of other options that are available for people. And so we're not right for everybody, but for people who are looking to maintain the sort of calibre of practice that they might have had before, but in a much more flexible way, it's a great choice. And so we're very lucky that now we do find people approaching us rather than me rooting around in my local coffee house to see if I can find a lawyer.
But I still think that story is fantastic. It just goes to show, doesn't it, how much talent is out there and potentially not being tapped into.
It's wasted, I think.
Yeah.
It's wasted. And there's a hemorrhaging in law in particular. I'm sure it's the same in lots of other industries, but in law in particular, there's a real hemorrhaging of quite senior female talent because the career path tends to be up or out. And the point at which you're expected to put your foot to the floor is probably late 30s, which might be when you're thinking about having a family. And it does result in a lot of women who are mothers leaving the profession. Not necessarily because they don't enjoy it or they don't want to be lawyers, but because that quite binary choice between being all in or all out doesn't really work for them. I think there is a lot more flexibility and there are more options now than there were 10 or 11 years ago. So it's not as strictly true as it was previously.
Yeah.
But it's also a model that is based upon the chargeable hour.
Yes.
So the more hours you work, the more profitable you are. And that provides a tension with anybody who might have other things to do outside of work.
Yeah. Does that mean that most of these firms become more male-dominated the more senior you get? Is that true to say?
Yes, and I think a lot of them are taking steps to try to address that, and some of that's societal. There's no reason at all in principle why a mother shouldn't be the person doing the 80-hour week and the father could be at home with the children. But the fundamental model, which charges by the hour, is always going to be more profitable if you're looking at your short-term profits as your KPI.
Yeah.
Always going to be more profitable if you've got people who can work longer hours.
Yeah. So based on that, apart from the flexibility you now offer your employees, did you change the business model in order to create a completely different type of approach?
So the flexibility is the fundamental change versus a traditional law firm. So most lawyers will go to work in a law firm and they will have targets of how many hours they work.
Yeah.
And they need to hit those targets. They need to charge a certain number of hours a day. And then on top of that, they'll need to do non-chargeable work. We say to our consultant lawyers, you do nothing, that's fine, over time.
Yeah.
People have to do some work, otherwise the business doesn't work.
Yeah.
But we don't set any baseline targets and people use it differently. So some people regularly work set days of the week, and particularly the lawyers who've got maybe younger children in nursery, they'll have a day that their children aren't in nursery, so they're not working that day, they're at home. Others, and I'm like this, work differently depending on what's needed from day to day. Sometimes I work in the office, sometimes I work at home, sometimes I might get up quite early and do some work, and then I might be doing something with my kids during the day, and I manage my own diary and I trust them all to be grown-ups.
Yeah.
We have one rule, which is if you say you're going to do something for a client, you need to do it. But how many clients you take on, how many pieces of work you take on, what type of work you take on, we give an awful lot of latitude and autonomy around that. And that seems to be effective for the lawyers and for the client.
It's so interesting, isn't it? Because what you're offering is it's an opportunity really for all these people you can really amplify your workload or you can dial it back. I think for all women in business, this is, like you said, it's such an important thing for businesses to recognise that there are moments and then there are other moments when you can work really long hours. It goes in swings and roundabouts. But so you've got a core team in the office that can make it all happen, I presume.
Yes, we've got, in addition to having the senior lawyers, we've got a wonderful chief operating officer, joined us about 18 months ago, and that's been a game changer for me.
I bet.
That's amazing. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
PA and a team of junior lawyers to support, and then a bunch of kind of outsourced services who help us with marketing and IT, and all, so that we've replicated everything that you would have in a traditional law firm, but we've done it by going out and picking and choosing the people we want to work with rather than hiring necessarily into the team. And that will vary over time. We'll start bringing more people in-house when it makes sense to do it. But for now, we've just gone out and picked the best kind of outsourced services that we can to help us. So I hope that we have replicated everything that you would have in a more traditional law firm, but we've done it in quite a modern and flexible way, taking account of the fact that although we have an office in central London, the lawyers work wherever they want to. So some will come into the office quite regularly, but we've got lawyers as far afield as Devon and Northumberland, and they're working, they'll come in for high days and holidays if we have an event, but from day to day, they'll be working in their home offices. And so we need to build the firm in a way that works for people who are working in that way as well.
This is really a modern approach. Talk me through COVID, because obviously the world changed overnight, and you said it was a pivotal moment in your business, so pre-COVID and post-COVID. How did you keep up? It was almost like a kind of bomb going off in terms of employment, where there was so much movement and so many things changed. What did it feel like from where you were sitting?
So COVID was obviously awful on so many levels for so many people, and it came with its challenges for me and my family, because I had three, at that point the small children were a little bit less small, 3 children, school-aged children, to be homeschooled. Yes. But they're quite civilised ages, probably 7, 9 and 11.
Yeah, so they could sit for a bit of time.
So I had the first thing that happened was a bunch of my colleagues were not able to do very much work whatsoever because they had younger children. So if you're at home with a toddler, if you're homeschooling a reception age child, very difficult to work alongside that.
Yeah, that was awful.
And we turned away quite a lot of work because there was a huge amount of employment law work that was needed, and think about furlough. And then coming out of COVID, unfortunately, a lot of businesses either didn't make it or had to reshape in quite significant ways. So helping businesses whose entire business model had been turned upside down through no fault of their own, and helping individuals who were on the receiving end of that. And then after what washed up towards the end of it, I felt, was that disproportionately, actually, the individuals who were being made redundant from some businesses were the working mothers who had to homeschool children or who hadn't had childcare and had fought valiantly to work around that. I knew people who would be working in the middle of the night and getting up with their children, and it was nobody's fault. But they were the ones who the business felt didn't really pull their weight sometimes. So I felt that disproportionately they were impacted. When then redundancies were made or changes had to be made to the structure of the business, you could see the impact that it had on working parents, particularly on working mothers. So we were very busy. The business grew quite substantially. We weren't necessarily able to service everything that came through the door because we were also impacted, because we are also
working around this same issue.
Working around all of the same issues. And a number of my colleagues just said, I'm just not going to be able to work really for a while. And we just have to understand that. That's not through anybody's choice. No. We have to respect it. The other thing it did for us was it was the proof of concept of the way that we worked. So we were already working in a hybrid fashion with many of the lawyers working from home. At that point, we had a physical office, but people used it if they wanted to or didn't use it if they didn't want to. And obviously in lockdown, it was closed. I used to go to pick up the post, but it was closed for a long period of time anyway. Because of the way we were working, that wasn't a massive change for us. Our systems were set up so that we literally just locked up in March 2020. And we came back when we were allowed to come back with a tape measure, putting the desks all 2 meters apart for a while. We hired a number of great people after that who had been maybe thinking about making a change before COVID and then worked at home through the pandemic. And then when they were expected to go back to the office afterwards, they weren't so keen.
Values changed a lot, didn't they?
The way they'd realised the benefits of working in that way. We also felt that clients understood the way we worked better after COVID. Perhaps seeing your lawyer on a screen in 2018, 2019 didn't feel quite the same as going into the city, into a lovely office and having a cup of coffee around a board table with your lawyer. But in COVID, your lawyer was your lawyer and they were on a screen from their study or their spare bedroom, whoever they were, and it was fine. And actually people became less inclined to make the trek to go into in-person meetings after COVID. Some of that's coming back or has been coming back for a while, but it's actually lovely to meet people.
It is nice, particularly if you're dealing with quite critical situations quite often, aren't you?
Yes, but people, I think, got used to having the most intimate conversations on the screen in COVID. Individual clients going through a really hard time pre-COVID really wanted to come in and talk about it in person. It's very personal. And post-COVID, I think many people prefer to have those difficult conversations on a screen. If you're upset, you don't then have to go home sort of a bit red-eyed. You just turn the screen off and go and make yourself a cup of coffee in your kitchen. And we offer both. If people want to come in, I'm always happy to see them. But I've noticed that people want to have difficult conversations in the privacy of their own home more often now.
Have
What are
you
we
always
doing?
been very sensitive towards people's feelings? Would you call yourself, I'm obviously introduced you as an empath, but is that something that people have always picked up on about you? I can really see how important that is to you.
That's such a good question, and I don't know the answer. I think I'm 50% sensitive and 50% I've got a pretty hard shell, which is really important if you're going to run your own business. Empathy and kindness is so important, but you also need to make sure that you yourself are not too sensitive.
Yeah.
I think being sensitive to other people's feelings is fine. Being too sensitive to the kind of knocks and bruises that you might get along the way to building something is going to be very challenging indeed.
Yeah. Do you have moments where you do find it challenging?
There have been so many. There have been so many moments that have been challenging. I think I am naturally quite a resilient person, and I don't take things terribly personally. So you have many ups and downs. I've been running a business for 11 years now, and mostly it's been great.
Yeah.
I've been really lucky. So I hire good people. We have delightful clients. We work with delightful suppliers. So 99% of the time it's great. But we help people through some of the most challenging times of their life. And they're really struggling in many different aspects of their life. And some of what we do is litigious. So it's conflictual by its very nature. And there are times that can be really challenging and really stressful. Actually, as a firm, we've spent quite a lot of time in the past couple of years thinking about how we support our own team to be able to cope with dealing with really quite traumatic situations that people are going through. You know, we help people who've been the victims of sexual harassment or sexual assault at work. We help people whose mental health is in crisis to the point that can sometimes be life-threatening. Very difficult to do that without it having an impact on you.
Yeah.
But our clients need us to be able to do it. It's not okay to just say, no, that's too hard. We're not going to do it because it's needed. But we need to make sure that we take care of ourselves and our team around doing that, because that's not easy work to do.
What are the things that you've been exploring that you think could really help and support your team through some of these difficult moments you're describing?
Just a couple of months ago, we spent a day all together as a team, and a large part of the topic of conversation that day was dealing with clients who are experiencing challenges and clients where the cases are challenging as well. And there are many things that you can do. I think it's real clarity about what our role is and what our role isn't, and ensuring that the client's getting the support that they need holistically is really important. So we're people and we're sympathetic to our clients, but we're not qualified mental health professionals.
No.
And so we've seen over the last 2 or 3 years an enormous increase in the number of clients dealing with mental health issues, whether that's individual clients who are experiencing severe mental health issues, maybe caused by work, or it may be showing up at work, or employers who are dealing with an increasing number of their workforce who are experiencing mental health challenges or challenges around neurodivergence as well. So supporting both sides of that equation. And there's a skill set for doing that. And the more that you understand what the causes of those problems are likely to be, what it's like for people to be experiencing them, what may and may not help, the better you're able to serve them. But it's no substitute for clients who need significant mental health support. You develop that personal relationship, but actually we're not way outside the scope of what we're able to provide, and recognizing that and ensuring that we're supporting our clients to get the support that they need elsewhere. Sometimes they need help and support to understand legal advice, because the legal process in itself is stressful and sometimes traumatic. We would never recommend a client to go through litigation if there was an alternative to it that might get to a sensible outcome. There's a myth, I think, that lawyers just want to rack up all the fees that they can. We certainly don't. If we can navigate our clients to a successful negotiated outcome swiftly, that is going to be significantly better for the client. And we have no interest in taking a case all the way through
No,
tribunal.
it's so drawn out.
If they don't need to do it,
Yeah.
sometimes it's necessary. And
Yeah.
of course, if it's necessary, that's what we'll do. But often the experience, even with the best help and support, often the experience for the individual can be very challenging in itself, on compounding whatever problems led up to it in the first place. And we regularly do that when it needs to be done. But most of our cases, we would advise our clients and then we would support our clients to get to a swift resolution. It enables you to move on and move forwards. And every case is different. It might not be appropriate, but when it is, it's the best possible outcome for them.
Going back to the business and the involvement of the business, what have you found to be the challenges, things that you weren't expecting about having your own company?
I wasn't really expecting to have my own business beyond me in the garden office when I started. So I didn't start with any kind of plan. And it's really only in the last couple of years that I've done any kind of strategic business planning beyond the work comes in and I hire more lovely, talented lawyers. And there came a point about 2 years ago where I thought I need to take a step back and look at this more strategically. And I hired a chief operating officer. Yeah. And so I had grown to a certain point just organically through word of mouth recommendations and new clients being recommended by old clients. But it got to a stage where maybe there were 20 people working in the business. And
it's a lot
of responsibility to run it in a way that maximizes the chance of everybody being successful and happy and things going smoothly for them. So a really fundamentally important thing that I did was to hire Kay, who's the chief operating officer. And that has done a few different things. It's meant that there are now 2 of us in the senior management team. So we're having conversations about what we're going to do and making plans together rather than it just being thoughts I'm having for myself. And she's obviously taken a load of really important operational things off my plate.
Yeah.
So not only am I not doing them, but they're being done better.
Yeah.
In her skill set, and it's not necessarily in mine. And that's been very helpful. And then we've had the opportunity to spend some time away from the business thinking about the strategy and the plans for what we want to do next.
Yeah.
And that's been really helpful and has resulted in, for example, recently we've moved into new space in central London, which will give us space to grow, space to collaborate more with each other, to collaborate more with clients. I think that will be quite game-changing for us again. But those kind of decisions have come at a reasonably mature stage in the business. I ran it very organically for a long period of time. And that was great for me because I did that alongside my kids being quite small.
I was going to say, I bet that coincided with those small children.
Yeah, so my kids were small when I started. I probably could have made more money by going back to work in the city. My purpose had been to do something different from that. And I was able to do that. I used to take my kids to school. I used to be able to go to their assemblies. I didn't have to ask for the morning off in order to do that. We've had some health issues and I have been able to balance being around for my kids when they've needed me and working in a more flexible way. And I think it's been proof positive that you can just trust somebody to get on and do their job properly. They will do it around whatever else they need to do. But now they're older.
You're in a different phase.
I'm in a different phase.
What you're saying is resonating so much because of all the entrepreneurs I've spoken to. The reason they've done what they've done, set up a business, has been primarily about creating the life that's going to feel purposeful and be fulfilling and deliver the values that are important to them. And actually what's so interesting about so many of the businesses is some of them have said, no, my business is really small, but it's only small now. As soon as I've got space and I feel like I'm ready, it sounds like that's what's happening with you, is that now is the time.
It took me a while to build up any kind of client base anyway.
Yeah.
I've never taken any investment. So I've built it, started it from my garden office with a few £1,000 for professional indemnity insurance and a website. And then I've just reinvested as I've gone. If I had wanted to build a legal unicorn, I guess I would have gone out and got investment or funding and done it at a different scale.
Yeah.
We've grown quite a bit and we intend to grow further. but that will be done in a balanced way. I'm not prepared to compromise on the quality of the people I hire or the work that we do. And the work that we do is quite bespoke. So I'm not looking to 10 times it.
No.
Because it's not possible to do that and retain the quality and the personal service that we offer. But COVID was a factor in our growth, and the new ways of working. Couldn't have predicted that, but it was something that we were already doing, became normalised as a result of that. And then now we've been around for a while, we've got a bit of a reputation, and my children are quite keen to see less of me. So I've got time.
I'm sure that's not true, but how do you keep your energy? What do you do to make sure that you're being able to do everything? Run a business, grow now, move into the city, manage 3 children, stay married.
I love all of it. So I am very lucky. I do have a very supportive husband, and very supportive children, actually, who are brilliant around the fact that I do, working flexibly goes both ways. So I am able to be around when I'm needed to be around, but sometimes I'm working in the evening.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm not able to be there for everything. Yeah. But I might possibly be there for, and that's absolutely fine as well. But I don't do everything perfectly by any stretch of the imagination, and I delegate a huge amount. It's really important to me to have really excellent help at work.
Yeah.
And there have been periods of my life where I've had really excellent help at home as well. And I don't think it's realistic to think that you could build a business and look after 3 children, run a house, stay sane. You only have 24 hours in the day. Yeah. And if you don't sleep a little bit on top of that, it doesn't end well.
No,
It's I think it's quite important to work out what your priorities are and focus on those and not worry too much about the other things.
And was that something that you learned, or was that something that you'd always been quite good at?
I was terrible at it.
Yeah.
Terrible at it.
Because as you sit here, you're so calm. And you've got, honestly, I feel like my voice is going down because you're so calm. And I feel like I'm sitting in a kind of really relaxed environment. And I'm just wondering if that's your personality, or that you've tried it, realised that you can't do everything, it's too exhausting, and then found that path. Because entrepreneurialism is so much trial and error. And I know that in a way you're saying I grew slowly, and you're not attaching that label necessarily. It is what you've done. You've built a business and you've done it over time. But it sounds like you've really understood that growth can also be slow and steady. And I think that one of the things that I certainly see is that enormous rush to the end, whereas actually I've taken my time to understand where I'm sitting, where do I fit in the world, how do my services serve other people, and who's going to come to me. And that's taken a while. Some people would say that's quite scary because you're building so slowly, but to me that's been very comfortable and meant that when I get somewhere there, I know that what I'm doing is right. It feels right for me. It's aligning with who I am. Is that the sort of journey that you've taken? Or
so lawyers are by nature really perfectionist, and it's important.
You're in the detail.
We care about the detail. We care. We can all spot a typo at 20 paces. And
that's a dream. I can't spot a typo at 20 paces.
And part of the training is real attention to detail and understanding the potentially catastrophic things that can go wrong if you make a mistake, which is necessary. But the flip side of that is that it can make you incredibly anxious. And we were all told growing up these terrible things can happen if you don't file the papers or if you put a comma in the wrong place in a contract. Yeah. And there are lots of sort of legal cases about those kind of things going wrong. And so we were brought up slightly in fear of making a mistake. Yeah. And it definitely has its place because the nature of what we do is detail-oriented, and it's correct that you need to be careful and precise. It's a completely different skill set to run a business because you'll be paralysed by that.
Yes.
You'll never get anything done. And there is so much about running a business, running your life, having 3 children, that done is better than perfect. Yeah. So being able to balance that and make a judgment call about when does it need to be perfect and when does it need to be done has been a real learning curve for me. Yeah. But it's a parallel learning curve because my life was very neatly ordered before I had children. And if you try and hang on to that once you have 3 children under 4, that won't end well for
disaster.
you.
No.
And likewise with a business, when we're servicing our clients, we need to do it as lawyers and precisely. When we're building a business, when we're deciding which office are we going to have, what's the website going to look like, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Crack on and get it done.
Yeah.
Do it well, but then make a decision and move on. Don't lose any sleep over it because life's too short.
But it sounds like it's a muscle that you've had to train.
Really had to train it. Right? Really had to train it.
I think that's so fascinating. Perfectionism is one of the things that holds most people back. And when I speak to people who come out of corporate business and they've gone through this transitional phase and set up something new, like you've described, I haven't spoken to a lawyer as yet. You're my first. That's been the hardest thing because they know how things should be done because they've been doing it for most of their career. And now you're in a place where you're suddenly wearing all the hats and you just simply don't have time to do it in a way that you think it should be done necessarily. It's just got to be good enough.
Or at first you don't have the skills. So I came from massive law firms where there were whole teams of people who were really skilled in all of the different aspects of supporting the firm. Huge accounts team, huge business development team, huge HR team.
IT team.
Oh my goodness me, I miss them. Yeah, huge IT team.
Yeah.
And then on day one, when it was me in my garden office, I had a laptop. I had an Excel spreadsheet, which I used for bookkeeping. I had a really great local mum who set up my website for me.
Yeah.
And everything that needed doing had to be done by me.
Yeah.
And wasn't reasonable to expect me to hire a bunch of people to do all of that on day one. I didn't even have any clients, but it needed to be done. It needed to be done well enough by someone who didn't have that skill set. And then gradually, as we've grown, we've now hired in people really good. We have really good accountants, have a really good business development agency. I have a wonderful chief operating officer. We have really good outsourced IT support as well. All of that we've been able to get as we've grown. But to get to the point of doing that, just had to roll my sleeves up and do it myself.
Yeah.
It's been quite good for me.
You know what? I really agree with that. But I love the fact that you've done this over a long period of time. I think it gives a lot of people encouragement that you can build slowly and that's okay. What do you love most about what you do?
I really love that I have been fortunate enough to build a business which is everything that I want it to be. So it's true that you can't have it all. And I have good days and bad days and good parts of days and bad parts of days. But it genuinely brings me joy to walk into my office with my team who are brilliant at what they do, brilliant lawyers, brilliant operations people, working in a way that suits them, servicing our clients in a way that suits them, and having a really positive impact on the people around them. We all make a good living. We all do good work. And we all have whatever work-life balance means to us at any given time. We all have that. So that makes me very happy that we have that there. I hope we'll continue to do it. I hope we'll grow. I hope the impact that we have will increase over time. But I'm very content as I am.
Yeah. And it sounds like you just haven't really deviated from the reason why you started it.
No.
But that's beautiful, isn't it? Because quite often people are tempted by money or tempted by growth or power or all the things that can come with successful business. When you talk about it and describe it, you could also be describing the first day that you started in a way, not with the people part of it, but you set it up for the purpose of, and you're still able to deliver that. So we have a tradition on the show where we get a little bit more from you, Florence, to leave with our listeners just about setting up the business or about the journey. And they're called the 3-2-1s. So 3 things you've invested in, 2 things you wish you could have done differently or you could have done differently, and 1 person you'd like to thank. And I caveat that the 1 person, I know we've had a conversation about this, the 1 person you'd like to thank is ideally not your partner, because I always presume that our family are very behind us. So let's start with 3 things you've invested in that have been worth every penny.
So the first thing has been people. Having really great business operations team is worth its weight in gold. I have a wonderful chief operating officer. I have a wonderful PA. And there are other people in the business who work hard to support us, who are all really great. And that is an investment financially. It's also often an investment of time in finding the right people and then hopefully supporting them. And we try to give as much flexibility as possible so that people can thrive in the way that they work. But you reap the dividends of that every single day in the way that the business operates. And the second thing, if I can say that something similar but different, is investing in people in my personal life. Yeah, having a lot of help and support. So like many people, I've got children, I've got a house to run. I've got elderly relatives as well who need support, and finding the right kind of help at home has been invaluable. And I would go as far as to say it's just not possible without it. So that's been really wonderful. And then the third thing is physical fitness. Yeah, I invest in my physical fitness quite a lot. I like spinning.
I like spinning as well. Spinning's great.
I really like spinning. I like to go into a dark room with a Gen Z PT at the front shouting at you.
Really loud music and
really loud house
and
music.
Really flashing lights.
And quite often they'll say something like, what you put in this class, you'll take out into the world. And I think, oh, bless you. Come back in 30 years and tell me that. But I always feel better at the end of it. Yeah. And if I didn't work, I'd go every day.
Yeah, do you know what? I totally agree with you. I hated spinning for the first 10 classes because it's so difficult and everybody's so about everything and so up. And I remember thinking, oh, God, I'm never going to be able to do this. But over time, it's a bit addictive.
Yeah. And they've made it into a disco.
They have made it into a disco.
I've been spinning since it was like in a council gym.
Yeah.
You could go on a spinning class. Now it's like a nightclub.
Yeah.
And it's young people with music that I've never heard before.
Yeah.
Or music from when I was young, one or the other.
Yeah.
And they make you go hard and fast for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And then you go out and you feel better.
Yeah.
And in lockdown, when they shut the studio, I bought a bike and did it at home.
Did you?
So I still got that. But you don't go as hard and fast on your own bike at home as you do if you go.
You haven't got the shame of everybody seeing you. So
stop and have a cup of coffee halfway through.
There's something about having a whole room of people around you who are better than you.
Yeah.
Makes a huge difference. I love that. 2 things that you wish you'd done differently or you could have done differently.
I think the first thing is, in this perhaps with benefit of hindsight, I think I would have invested more in systems and processes earlier. Yeah. Knowing the benefits that I would have from them. But that's easy to say once you've grown the business and you can easily do that. At the time, me with my Excel spreadsheet was what I had.
Yes.
But I think when I look back, I think I could have future-proofed a few things by just investing a bit more at an earlier stage. And that is now how I look at things when I'm moving forwards.
Yeah.
And the second thing is there have been 2 or 3 times where I haven't trusted my gut on something, and you always live to regret that. Yeah. So whether that's a piece of work that you take on, a business decision that you make, you need to think about it rationally and you need to think about it commercially. But if you've got that nagging feeling in your gut, you probably should be listening to that as well.
Yeah. And that's really hard to do sometimes.
It's really hard, especially if you've been trained to be super logical. It's really
hard.
That's really hard to listen to your intuition, but it's super important.
Yeah, that's really good advice. I love that. One person you'd like to thank?
So I would like to thank my husband, but I know you're not going to let me do that.
You can thank your husband too.
He's also a lawyer. And so he's been a really helpful person, really hugely supportive over the years. But actually the person I would like to thank is a stranger to me, is a lady who I think is probably 10 or 15 years older than me. We've never met. We've never been in touch with each other. But 5 years before I set up Bellevue Law, I read an article about her. Yeah. And she had, back in the days, long before remote working, flexible working, probably even Zoom and Teams calls, left the city to set up her own law firm from her dining room table and made a huge success of it. And it was the first time that I realised that was a possibility. So although we don't know each other, we've never met, I should probably get in touch with her.
Also,
to say thank you.
Say her name.
Her name is Susan Singleton.
Susan Singleton, if you're listening.
She doesn't know me.
That's okay.
But that's really inspirational to me. A long time before I started, I realised it was a possibility. So she just planted the seed.
And these are the trailblazers that we need in our life, isn't it? We always talk about this, is that if somebody hasn't done it, it's hard to see that it can be done. But that's really lovely. Oh, thank you so much.
I might go off and find her now.
I think you should.
Say thank you in real life.
Honestly, thank you, Susan.
Thank you, Susan.
I know, it's great. And it's great that, what you're doing. I think that the story, the connection you have with the business, the heart-led way that you're talking about it, and the empathy and kindness that you're showing toward the work that you're doing, taking it very seriously, but also about how you're growing the business is lovely to hear. So thank you so much for being on the Midlife Entrepreneur.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for tuning into the show. And if you've enjoyed this episode, don't forget to click follow on your favourite podcast platform and leave a review. It really helps us reach more listeners just like you. Finally, if you're a midlife entrepreneur with an interesting story to share or would like to nominate a guest, you can do so via my email. It's inquiries@joeglynsmith.com. All information will be in the show notes. See you next time.